Let's get stuck into the week's biggest stories with One Nation leader Pauline Hanson and former Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce. Great to see you both. Now, the big story of the week for me, Mr. Joyce, was why you said the welcome to country when the Northern Territory Chief Minister decided she wasn't going to. I'll play you the clip. Have a look.
I'd like to pay a special acknowledgement to the veterans here today, to Territorians, to serving men and women, to the families and descendants of survivors, ladies and gentlemen, but also importantly to our children.
Sorry, Barnaby, that is Leah Finocchiaro. She's leading by example and saying, you know, let's do the vets, we don't need to do welcome to country as well. Yet you felt you had to. Why is that? Is that the pressure is so great that politicians feel they have to do the welcome to country each time?
Well, Brian, there's no plan when we arrived there as to what process it was. I mentioned within my speech, the Larrakia people. The reason I did that is because you'll probably find the Larrakia people killed in the bombing of Darwin, which is 19th of February 1942. So that's a fair reason to acknowledge those who died just like the citizens of Darwin, just like everybody else, like the soldiers, like the US sailors. And it's, you know, there was no plan before to give the acknowledgement or not to give the acknowledgement. I don't go with elders past, present, emerging, and just acknowledge the Larrakia people and thought nothing of it. And to be quite frank, I didn't notice that Leah hadn't. It wasn't the big part of the day. The big part of the day is acknowledging that our nation was attacked and that a threat from totalitarian regimes is not something Australia hasn't had to deal with. It's not a pretend, it's not a myth, it really happens. And if you don't get it together, you're going to lose this nation. And that 19th of February 1942 was the first of many bombing raids. And we just had the other day a Chinese warship, a very, very sophisticated, one of the best in the world, Chinese warship, probably with a nuclear submarine, off the coast of Sydney, not out in the boonies, Sydney. And it did live fire. It's fired missile.
And presumably there were no welcome to country ceremonies out on those Chinese warships. Pauline...
Well, if they get their way, Ryan, we don't have to worry about welcome to country anymore because we won't own the country. It'll be gone.
So, Pauline, let me flip it on its head. Is the pressure just so great now that, as Barnaby says, it's just kind of you're expected to do it, it's like saying g'day, it's like anything. Welcome to country is now so ingrained that it never occurs to anyone not to say it. Is this the best way of kind of leading by example, that perhaps we should all just be one nation, the Australian nation?
Well, it's not my way and it's not in my book. I've never said it and I don't intend to ever say it either. And congratulations to the Chief Minister that she actually didn't say it. She was right in acknowledging the veterans and the people that were up in Darwin. She's done it. That many other people have done acknowledgement to country. I am so over it, Rowan. I really am. It's become tokenistic, as she said, which I totally agree with her. I turned my back on the floor of Parliament. When the day comes that the Aboriginal people and these mobs and tribes out there acknowledge me as an Australian entitled to be in this country because I was born here, then we might get some harmony and stop this diversity that's happening. This is not only Aboriginal land. So until they acknowledge myself and other Australians born here and those ones that have come here from overseas, we're going to have ratbags like Lydia Thorpe still pushing her own agenda, divisive, antagonistic, and until we actually stop it, we're just going along with what they want and with this welcome to country and all the other BS that goes with it, and I'm so over it.
You mentioned the Chinese warships. Just going to play you Albanese talking about how much notice he had about the Chinese warships.
Well, China issued, in accordance with practice, an alert that it would be conducting these activities, including the potential use of live fire. It is the case that the notice was given. When that occurs, airlines are notified and stay out of the area. Air Services Australia also has been informed.
So Barnaby, were the government, the Labor Party, Albanese and co, caught with their pants down?
The only thing that was consistent about that statement from the current Prime Minister, it was all wrong. It was all false. And no, they weren't notified. We found out because a Virgin airline saw the live fire and then contacted, we didn't even have an Australian warship there, contacted a New Zealand warship which then conveyed it back to the Defence Force. The Virgin Airlines conveyed it to Air Services Australia. And this was brought about the diversion, I think, of 49 flights, because it's not safe to fly over a place that's firing missiles and ordnances into the air. It was a complete and utter debacle. And then the Prime Minister blurts out that stuff, that he was informed, it was a proper process. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It just wasn't. And it's a real wake-up call for Australia. That was a real, the Chinese Communist Party saying, hello, Australia, be really careful of how you act around us. We're the big boys in the block, and we should just focus on one thing in this nation, and it's not intermittent power, and it's not gender equality, and it's not gender fluidity. It's becoming as powerful as possible, as quickly as possible, so your children are safe. Because if you get this wrong, forget about welcome to country. There's no country to welcome to. You don't own it anymore.
Absolutely.
Forget about your nice house in the eastern suburbs. It's not your house anymore. Forget about your super. It's gone. Forget about your children. They could be dead, or there's no future for them. Focus on that. Focus on that. Really focus on that.
Pauline, very quickly, you've been warning about the threat of China for years. Did you ever think you would see a Chinese warship off Sydney firing ammunition?
Well, I didn't think it would happen so soon, but Rowan, I'll tell you this, they're testing the waters, and the fact is to see what Australia would do about it. If Australian ships were up in Chinese waters, they would actually have their fighter bombers going over the top of them and seeing what we're up to. This is not on. They're circumnavigating Australia, what I understand. Has the Prime Minister told us that? Not to be concerned about it. He wouldn't know what the hell's going on in his own backyard. His Chinese mates never told him that they were going to come down in our waters. He had no idea, and he kowtows to them all the time. And we're going to pay the price for that.
Absolutely. Thank you both, Pauline Hanson and Barnaby Joyce, for coming on The World According to Rowan Dean.